Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless host, Clay Travis. I hope you guys are having a spectacular Monday. All of your efficiency is about to collapse. We've got much to get to here on this great Monday in March. I want to tell you right now at the beginning, before we get off and running any further, make sure that you go to sportsbookreview.com. They're going to have a really cool contest. I'll send out the link soon, where you can enter for free and try to be the best at gambling throughout the NCAA tournament. You pick against the spread, and whoever wins the most can win a total of $5,000 in Bitcoin. Pretty cool. But in the meantime, go get some practice, pay attention, look at what the lines are for all of the conference tournaments that are coming up. Go to sportsbookreview.com. I also want to encourage you, it's spring, almost. Time is about to change this weekend. And one of the things you have to do when time is about to change is get ready for spring and the rush that is trying to buy the right house. Wherever you live right now, odds are the housing market is intense and competitive if you want to get a good house. Whether you live in Nashville, Dallas, Houston, San Francisco, LA, Atlanta, Miami, New York, Chicago, St. Louis, wherever you might live, there is a hot market right now where it's competitive for the best homes. You know how to get and win the best possible house. I'm telling you right now, make sure you are pre-qualified for your mortgage. Go to thehomeloanexpert.com. Let my guy Ryan Kelly hook you up no matter where you live in the country. That's thehomeloanexpert.com. Don't waste time. Get there now and get pre-qualified for what's going to be a wild and woolly real estate market as you try to make sure that everything gets hooked up. You can also wipe out all your credit card debt if you already owe a home, get the best possible rate on your mortgage. Just go to thehomeloanexpert.com. All right, let's roll. All right, you ready to roll into the big stories? How many of you watched the Oscars last night? The Oscars, while we're broadcasting right now, may officially be announced as the lowest viewed of all time. It came on last night at 8 o'clock Eastern, did not end until almost midnight. I went to bed before it was all over, but I watched, and there were several things that stood out with me. One, no place in America maybe loves to applaud itself more than Hollywood. Nowhere else do actors and actresses continue to find it to be the height of bravery for them to stand up while accepting an award for their ability to pretend to be someone else and say really aggressive political things. And last night, I still can't get past Jimmy Kimmel becoming the voice of left-wing sort of morality. Am I crazy? Or was Jimmy Kimmel the same guy who used to host the Man Show, dress up in blackface, sit around with a bunch of girls he called the Juggies in tight tank tops, and then take a break during the show so they could show girls jumping on trampolines? Now, I don't have a problem with any of that. In fact, I thought it was all pretty funny back in the day. But I'll be damned if I'm going to watch Jimmy Kimmel now lecture me on what American gun policy is going to be when the dude used to make a living walking around with a microphone, having juggies fondle his dick and try to guess what he had inside of his pants. Am I the only person who watches Jimmy Kimmel now and thinks he's a pale approximation of as funny as he used to be, and also not the guy that I want to be the moral authority in America? I don't want him hosting the Oscars at a Me Too moment. And here's the other thing. I'm fine if you want to make jokes about politicians, but it used to be that our comedians tried to play it both ways. They tried to make fun of Republicans and they tried to make fun of Democrats. Now we've got polarized comedians who only make fun of one side. Why is it funny to watch one side get made fun of? I watched last night. There were no jokes that made fun of any Democratic politicians. The usual layup lines were rehearsed against Donald Trump, Mike Pence, stupid people who like guns, all of the usual suspects. Here's what I said would have been brave. I said this to my wife while we were watching live. I said, you know what would be really brave? Is if somebody got up to accept an Oscars or to give an award, and right beforehand they were like, hey, guess what? In the spirit of full disclosure, I thought I should show you this. And they pulled out of their wallet an NRA membership card. That would be brave. If I saw somebody hold up an NRA membership card, or if I heard somebody say, you know what? I think Donald Trump's actually done an okay job with the economy so far this year. Boy, that stock market's really rolling. Wall Street really likes what Donald Trump is selling when it comes to economic policy right now. That would be brave. Standing up in front of an auditorium and telling people that all agree with you, what you think politically, is not brave. What it is dumb, because ultimately you are in the entertainment business. And Republicans buy movie tickets too. And I don't know why you would want to insult them by trying to pretend you're doing something other than just being in the entertainment business. None of it makes sense to me. I don't know why comedians have had to go political one way or the other. I don't know why entertainers have had to give up any idea that they might be able to entertain everybody, regardless of what race, ethnicity, religion, all again, gay, straight, bisexual, transgender, whatever you are. Just entertain us. And I think the Oscars have lost their way. But more importantly, the Oscars, to me, have come to represent what is all too frequently the case in mainstream media, which is glaring and blatant hypocrisy. This was the Oscars of Me Too. It was a big deal, at least ostensibly. Everybody in Hollywood could pretend now that they don't like Harvey Weinstein, even though, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, they've known what Harvey Weinstein has been doing for the last 20 years, and they were okay with it, or more than 20 years, because he produced good movies, and he made people a lot of money, and he produced great roles for men and women who starred in his movies. So everybody nowadays is like, oh my God, I can't stand for Harvey Weinstein, and the Harvey Weinstein fallout has expanded. Ryan Seacrest has what appear to be totally made-up sexual harassment allegations that have been filed against him. He, of course, is the E-host as well as a radio show host. You've got allegations that have been levied against James Franco, who's not even married and just seems to be a kind of weird dude who tries to bang everything that walks, but I can kind of respect that. You've got Casey Affleck, who is not allowed to show up and give an Oscar award because 8 years ago he settled a sexual harassment claim against 2 different women. All 3 of those individuals, only 4 of the 20 Oscar nominees even talked to Ryan Seacrest. James Franco, who once hosted the Oscars, not allowed to appear effectively because he was not nominated, even though I'm told by people who are experts that his performance was one of the best performances of the year. And Casey Affleck is not allowed to show up and give an Oscar because all of them have sexual harassment allegations which are pending against them, and that is now unacceptable, even though we don't know whether they even did anything wrong at all, and certainly even though we know that their behavior did not rise to the level of criminal charges being levied. All of that is unacceptable. But Kobe Bryant, who was charged with rape in 2003, is nominated and wins an Oscar and strides up on stage and feels compelled to argue that his shitty short animation video, which everybody says is awful, I haven't watched it, that he represents athletes and they should do more than shut up and dribble. Yes, they should buy off rape charges when millions of dollars are at stake. This is wild to me. And I want to ask you this. Why am I one of the only people in sports media, and why am I one of the only people in media in general who is aggressively going after this story? In the same year as Harvey Weinstein, when Los Angeles is evidently woke, and everybody out there is aware of the impropriety of powerful men signing non-disclosure agreements and getting away with rape. How in the world can you justify Kobe Bryant winning an Oscar? Put simply, you can't. This is an example of why many people should not get involved in politics and try to pretend to be moral authorities. Here's the truth of the matter. If you are the right political persuasion, or even potentially if you are the right color, you have athlete privilege, and you probably may also have black privilege, which allows you to get away with things which everybody else has to answer for. I want you to listen to this quote. This is Kobe Bryant speaking after the girl decided she was not going to testify against him in his trial. He released this statement, which I read again over the weekend, and I was blown away by. I want you to listen to this. This is Kobe Bryant. Although I truly believe this encounter between us was consensual, I recognize now that she did not and does not view this incident the same way I did. After months of reviewing discovery, listening to her attorney, and even her testimony in person, I now understand how she feels that she did not consent to this encounter. Do you know what it's called when you realize that a woman didn't consent to your sexual encounter? Anybody, any guesses? Any guesses what it's called? Rape! He admitted that he now believes that she didn't consent to their sexual encounter, which means he raped her. He raped her in his own words. I want you to listen to this again. I recognize now that she did not and does not view this incident the same way I did. After months of reviewing discovery, listening to her attorney, and even her testimony in person, I now understand how she feels that she did not consent to this encounter. He raped her. And he said in this statement, I now understand basically that I raped her. And he still never misses an NBA game for it. And even crazier, in the same city as Harvey Weinstein, he wins an Oscar. Now, I would love to hear anybody rationalize how in the world, if you are so driven insane by the use of power by men to take advantage of powerless women, how in any way you could justify not talking to Ryan Seacrest on the red carpet, not believing that James Franco should even be nominated, and not believing that Casey Affleck should be able to show up and give an award as a presenter at the Oscars this year because of the Me Too moment. Yet you feel totally comfortable with Kobe Bryant being nominated and with Kobe Bryant actually winning an Oscar. Kobe Bryant, who in the statement I just read you, essentially admitted that he raped a woman. I don't understand it. Now look, Harvey Weinstein is a piece of crap. I'm not defending Harvey Weinstein. But Harvey Weinstein has still never been charged with any crime. And he did exactly what Kobe did when people complained. He used his wealth to buy their silence through non-disclosure agreements. I've been asking this question for a long time, and nobody understands it well and has ever been able to rationalize it for me. I want you guys to think about this. I practice law, obviously, putting my lawyer hat on. If I represent a client who has been accused of murder, and when that client is accused of murder, I go to the victims' families and I offer them millions of dollars to not testify in my murder trial, and or I offer millions of dollars to any witnesses in my murder trial not to testify, do you know what happens to me? I get charged with obstruction of justice. My client gets charged with obstruction of justice. Why is it permissible when there is a rape charge for someone to buy off the victim of the rape and get them to not testify in order to pay them millions of dollars to avoid potentially having to go to jail for your crime? No one can justify this for me. How is it that Kobe Bryant didn't also get charged with obstruction of justice when he tried and did buy this woman's silence in order to avoid having to stand trial and potentially go to jail? If we take rape seriously in this country, and I think it's probably fair to say that we do, why wouldn't it be treated the same as murder or manslaughter or vehicular homicide or any other claim? Imagine that I went out and I robbed a bank with my gun, with a weapon. If I tried to go back to that bank and pay them not to prosecute me because I had robbed the bank with a gun, I would get charged with obstruction of justice. The state would say, wait a minute. You can't buy your way out of a bank robbery just because you have money. Let's presume that it's possible. That would be a clear attempt by me to subvert justice by using my money to avoid having to stand trial for my crime. Why was Kobe Bryant ever allowed to buy his way out of a rape charge because he happens to have a lot of money? Why was he not charged with additional crimes? Moreover, again, my point on this in a straightforward fashion, can anyone at all at Hollywood reconcile why Kobe Bryant's not the exact same or worse than Ryan Seacrest, James Franco, and Casey Affleck? If none of those guys are allowed to participate at their normal level at the Oscars, why in the world was Kobe Bryant given an Oscar for his crappy short animated film? And why did nobody have an issue with him getting nominated and nobody have any issue with him winning an Oscar? Now, I have several hypotheses. All of them are shitty excuses, but I have several of them. Potentially you can distinguish him from Harvey Weinstein because there are less accusers of Kobe Bryant so far. Maybe there are less accusers of Kobe Bryant because he has bought them all off. It is also important to note that Kobe Bryant was charged with a more serious criminal violation than anything that has been so far charged of Harvey Weinstein. In fact, Harvey Weinstein has faced no criminal charges. Now, I think what happens here is that the Me Too movement is really about saying white men are awful. Let's be honest. That's really what it's about on some level. It's not about saying men are awful. It's primarily about focusing on white men. All right? Kobe Bryant is not getting a lot of attention because he's a black guy who is accused of rape and using his power to dominate a powerless woman. And that throws all of the victimization pyramid out of whack. Because if some people are willing to give Kobe Bryant an excuse because he's not a white dude, then that is what's going on. Let me give you an example here. Imagine that Ben Roethlisberger had made a crappy animated short movie and had won an Oscar as a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback this year. Do you think that his nomination would have gone unnoticed? Or do you think he would have been crushed because he was trying to win an Oscar in a Me Too era after he had had allegations of sexual assault levied against him before? And if he then won an Oscar, would there not be tons of pieces written about how this is an example of what white men can do? They can still be politically viable and win an Oscar even after they've been accused of rape in a Me Too era. He would be crushed beyond belief. I doubt that he would have ever been nominated, and certainly if he had won, the usual suspects at Woke Center would have written all these takes about how this is evidence of white men not having to answer for their power over the powerless, and about how Ben Roethlisberger can re-enter the mainstream even though he's got these allegations against him. Yet Ben Roethlisberger wasn't even charged with a crime. He's not from Los Angeles. They didn't retire 2 different jerseys for him at the Staples Center, not 1 but 2, and he didn't win an Oscar. The victimization pyramid only allows white men to be responsible for everything right now. Because as soon as you start to rope in minority men, then some minority women aren't willing to climb on that train. They say, wait a minute, I don't believe that Kobe actually raped that girl. Why don't you believe it? Well, because he's black. That's the truth of the matter, which is, by the way, racist. But as soon as you try to expand Me Too to include all men, it doesn't fly. You have to basically just throw white men to all of the wrongdoing. White men are the cause of everything that exists that's wrong in society today. The minute that you expand beyond white men, you lose minority women. Because they're saying, wait a minute, why are you picking on Kobe Bryant? Wait a minute, Kobe Bryant's a proud black man. He didn't do anything wrong. The minute that you start including minorities, Me Too collapses. Because by and large, Me Too isn't just about women getting their voices. It's about tearing down white men who are all evil in the minds right now of the media. That, my friends, is the truth. So you have to think about the pyramid of victimization. At the top of the pyramid of victimization is minority women. They have been victimized for a long time. The brutalizer, the blame always goes to white men. Now, some of you are saying Bill Cosby. Yeah, I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's true at all. I'm saying that's the way the media covers it, is that Kobe Bryant gets a pass on what he did because he's got athlete privilege and because he's got black guy privilege. And everybody out there just wants to focus on white guy privilege. I'm not saying it's accurate. I'm saying there's lots of men who have done wrong things, but we don't focus on that. We only focus on white men. Kobe gets to avoid getting Me Too. He gets to avoid what happened to Ryan Seacrest. He gets to avoid what happened to James Franco. He gets to avoid what happened to Casey Affleck. And he gets to avoid even being connected to Harvey Weinstein. The minute that I start to say, you know what? There's a lot of similarities between Kobe and Harvey Weinstein. They're both in Los Angeles. They both were dominating women who were much less sophisticated than they were in terms of their political power and capital. And bang, Kobe even got charged with rape. Kobe Bryant literally had zero consequences other than the fact that he had to go out and buy a really expensive diamond ring for his wife. Kobe Bryant may well have gotten away with rape, certainly seems to have admitted that he did, in fact, get away with rape if you read his actual comments. Again, this is Kobe Bryant. I recognize now that she did not and does not view this incident the same way I did. After months of reviewing Discovery, listening to her attorney, and even her testimony in person, I now understand how she feels she did not consent to this encounter. If you understand that she feels she didn't consent to the encounter, then you raped her. Because if you don't consent to an encounter, we have a word for what that is. That's called rape. All right. That is my feelings on Kobe. That is a incredible breakdown. I would encourage you guys to share. Stay woke. Use your brain. Apply logic. Root out hypocrisy. That's what I do. The Oscars were a hypocritical opportunity for Hollywood to appear to be doing something that they were not actually doing. They were just telling you that white men are evil. They did not want to extend that to anybody but white men. That's the truth. And they got exposed because they gave Kobe Bryant an Oscar at the Me Too Oscars. It was Woke Center brought to you at the Dolby Theater. All right, couple different things. Tomorrow, Outkick the coverage. We're going to have Bruce Pearl, Hour 2. Bruce Pearl and Auburn share an SEC title with Tennessee. Now, I know you Auburn people out there are going to point out that Auburn won 94-84 back in January. That's not how you do college basketball titles. You share them when you end up with the same record over the course of 18 games because everybody's got a different schedule. Some teams play tougher schedules, some teams play easier schedules, and the way that we rationalize it all out is you play 18 games, and if you end up with the same schedule, you're co-champs. Best 2 coaching jobs in America. I went back and looked over everything in the world of college basketball. I believe the best 2 coaching jobs in America this year have been done by Bruce Pearl at Auburn and by Rick Barnes at Tennessee. I think both of the best. I think Chris Beard at Texas Tech has done fantastic. I think John Beilein has done great at Michigan, the way he finished that season. I think certainly everything that has happened at the University of Virginia is spectacular, right? Picked to finish 5th in the ACC. I think Clemson has had a great season. The two best jobs done in the entirety of college basketball this year, both in the SEC. I think Bruce Pearl and Auburn, who was picked 9th in the SEC and finished 13-5, tied for first. And even more amazingly, Rick Barnes at Tennessee, who was picked 13th in the SEC and finished now tied for first place. Both of these teams dancing around a 3 seed, I think would have a decent chance to get to a 2 seed if either team is able to advance and win the overall bracket. So if I had to pick, those would be my number 1 and my number 2 picks for the best overall situation there. The SEC is not a bad league, as many of you want to say. This is one of the best years the SEC has had in a very long time. Maybe 8 teams making the SEC tournament, making the NCAA tournament, depending on exactly what's going on. Now, you can have other nominees for who the best coach of the year is. You can do it. You can argue it. You can even sit around and scream it to the heavens. You, my friends, will unfortunately not be correct. The 2 best coaching jobs this year, Rick Barnes at Tennessee and Bruce Pearl at Auburn. We will have him tomorrow on Outkick the Coverage, my radio show, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, nearly 300 a.m. FM stations, and, of course, satellite radio as well. Okay. Also, ESPN has now effectively hired a new president to replace the man who, if you remember, John Skipper, had substance addiction issues and was forced to resign. I don't know Jimmy Pitaro very well. I know he was at Yahoo, and many of the people that I like at Yahoo have a good relationship with him. I'm curious to see how he does. My hope would be that at some point in time, he will allow me to have ESPN people on my radio again. My radio show again. I doubt that that's going to happen because we're kicking ESPN's ass up and down the block at Fox Sports Radio. But that is at least worth paying attention to. One more dramatic thing that I would pay attention to. I believe that Sean Miller is going to file a defamation lawsuit against ESPN surrounding all of the Arizona allegations that they published on ESPN.com and that they then talked about extensively on ESPN programming. I believe that Sean Miller is going to bring a defamation lawsuit. I think there's a possibility he could even bring that lawsuit before the NCAA tournament even begins. If that happens, grab your popcorn, because I think it's possible that ESPN is going to get hit with a big verdict here. I know it's genuinely hard for public figures to beat defamation, to file defamation charges and be successful. But I think that when they go into how this story was written, they may be well able to find that ESPN behaved in a reckless manner in the way that they ran this story and in the details that they have gotten wrong. And I believe potentially that this is going to be a blockbuster lawsuit filed by Sean Miller. So file this away. Sometimes I give you guys tips. File this away in the back of your minds. Pay attention. Wait for it. I think it could come out, and if it comes out, the allegations in this lawsuit are going to be brutal for ESPN. I think it's likely that that lawsuit would be filed in the state of Arizona, alleging defamation, invasion of privacy, a couple different tort actions. Sean Miller not going to actually go silently into that good night. I think he is going to go out fighting. And if you look at the losses of recruits, I don't think there's 2 ways to get this. You have to show either actual malice, which I think would be very hard to do, but you can show recklessness in the way that the story was written and put together and in the fact that ESPN ever published it to begin with. And I think there's the possibility that it could happen. Somebody's asking, would he wait till after the tourney? I don't know. If I were him and I wanted to maximize the amount of attention I was going to get and fight for my overall good name, the best possible time to file the lawsuit is during the NCAA tournament because everybody is going to be paying attention to you then and because it'll be much talked about then. If you wait till after your team loses in the NCAA tournament, then the storylines move on. Everybody moves into the NBA. We'd still talk about it, but it wouldn't be top of mind in the same way it would be for every Arizona basketball game. Now, it's possible that could be considered a distraction for his team. Maybe that's why he thinks it potentially doesn't make sense. But I think from his perspective, firing back and defending yourself to the utmost is kind of what he's about there. And I think that fighting back and kind of creating that us against the world mentality via the lawsuit actually could make a lot of sense. So I just want you to keep that on your radar. If I were at ESPN, I'd be very nervous about this lawsuit coming down. Could be very ugly for MS ESPN. Share the show if you enjoyed it. My name is Clay Travis. Go register for a new mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com. Get ready for all your gambling at sportsbookreview.com. My friends there, they can give you the best numbers, the best information you need wherever you go. Sportsbookreview.com. We'll be live tomorrow. Loaded show. Peter Schrager, NFL Network, coming on. We'll have Bruce Pearl in hour 2, and then we'll talk to my guy, Petros Papadakis, at AM 570 Sports. My name is Clay Travis. It's been Outkick the Show. Kisses, boys and girls. D-back.